Shanna Gardner was born into wealth. Her parents had money, lots of it. She was also raised in a devout Mormon home. From the outside, it seemed like she was living a very stable, normal life. She then met a man named Jared Bridegan during a trip to Florida. Jared was also a devout Mormon. They fell in love and got married in Utah in 2010. They began their lives together in Connecticut and began raising their twins, but then moved to Jared's hometown in Jacksonville, Florida, for the health of one of their children. It was here in Florida where life changed for Shanna. Marital problems, allegations of cheating, and actions very inconsistent with her Mormon upbringing. This led to a divorce in 2015. This also led to endless battles concerning the twins. Shanna did remarry. Mario Fernandez Saldana was a maintenance man at the gym where she worked out. They fell in love and got hitched. Then, Jared was murdered. Shanna skipped the funeral and moved to Washington State without her new husband. Then, the killer was arrested. Mario was arrested. And finally, Shanna was arrested. All three are now accused in the murder for hire of Jared Bridegan.
I'm Benny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Great to see you. Great to be back. And let's start here, because we see situations like this way too often on court TV. Families breaking up and it resulting in someone being charged with murder. But you may know this, you may not know this, but for first marriages in the United States of America, 40 to 50% of them end in divorce. It's extremely common. It just happens for whatever reason. You fall out of love, somebody, you don't agree, financial problems, of course, extramarital affairs. All these things cause problems between adults and they get divorced. So it's nothing that is extreme or unusual, right? 40 to 50% of first marriages end in divorce. Now, normally when that divorce happens, if it's two people, it's pretty simple, adults. You just go your own way. Maybe you have a broken heart, maybe you're a little jealous, but you can get over it and move on. If during the course of that marriage, however, you started a family, you have children, it gets complicated. It gets very, very complicated, because now you have split, but the children are left in the middle of all this. And you're battling for custody. Who gets them at the holidays? Who gets them on the birthday? Who's going to pay for this? They shouldn't see that. They shouldn't go out with this one. I mean, everything can potentially become a battle and get ugly. But it doesn't have to. If the two adults, the parents, act in the best interest of the children. And that's a phrase that's used in the law all the time. And judges will use that as the standard in all cases. In dealing with children, what do you do with them? Well, with whatever's in their best interests. And we know it's always in the best interest of the children, 90% of the time, that the parents get along. Unless you've got one who is totally off the rails, and you know what I'm talking about. But in the normal circumstance, if everybody just agrees, we're not for each other, things happen between us, but we've got to act in the best interest of the children at all times and not do anything to disrupt that. Well, in the allegations in this case involving Shanna Gardner, it's the opposite of that. It's the absolute opposite. And it's not the first time we've seen something like this on court TV. It's an allegation that in this split up, one parent is driven to the point of murdering the other parent in a bitter custody battle. Worst case scenario, the opposite of what should happen, obviously. Everyone should get along for those kids. Now, the allegations here are that that did not happen. And now we've got a murder case. Matt Johnson, Court TV crime and justice correspondent, has more of the backstory for us tonight.
Jared Bridegan appeared to have it all. A new job as a Microsoft executive, living in sunny Florida with his wife Kirsten and 4 children.
We had just had London. She was 6 months old, so things were good.
Kirsten had 2 children with Jared, London and Bexley. They also shared custody of his 9-year-old twins from a previous marriage.
On the week that we did not have the oldest 2 kids at our home, Jared would take them out to dinner. It was referred to as date night in this agreement.
The agreement kept Jared and Kirsten in Florida because Bridegan and his ex-wife Shanna Gardner-Fernandez were in a bitter custody dispute. What was that relationship like, he and his ex-wife?
The relationship between us and his ex-wife was not cordial. Our communications were always in writing because there was not mutual trust between the 2 households.
On February 16, 2022, Jared had one of his scheduled daddy date nights. After dinner, he dropped off his twin daughter and son at his ex-wife's home in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, and headed home to St. Augustine. On the way, he stopped to get his 2.5-year-old daughter Bexley ice cream. She was in the back seat of his SUV. He then called Kirsten, telling her he loved her and would be home soon. How did you learn something was wrong?
As time started ticking by and the time that they're usually home passed, I can't even describe it, like, I just knew something's not right.
Her fears became reality after an officer answered Jared's cell phone, telling her Bexley was unharmed. But they needed her to come by the police station to hear about her husband.
They later on that night told me that he had been shot. Where did this happen? Because he usually gets in the car and just drives home. I had talked to him.
Jared was not a victim of any robbery gone wrong or carjacking. Police say he was the victim of a targeted attack on a one-way road he traveled often. Jared came across a tire police say was intentionally placed right here in the middle of the road in the sanctuary neighborhood of Jacksonville Beach, Florida. That's when someone came out of these woods and ambushed the father of 4, killing him on the spot. For almost a year, no answers. Then in January 2023, a break in the case.
Henry Tenen was arrested for the following crimes: conspiracy to commit murder, second-degree murder with a weapon, accessory after the fact to a capital felony, and child abuse.
Now investigators say that Tenen has pleaded guilty in the case and admitted to shooting Bridegan.
Henry Tenen pled guilty to murdering Jared Bridegan. Henry Tenen has admitted that he in fact was the shooter.
According to court records, Tenen once lived in this house that was once owned by Bridegan's ex-wife's current husband.
Our investigation has revealed a single link between Jared Bridegan and Henry Tenen. That is Mario Fernandez Saldana.
And now investigators have charged that husband, Mario Fernandez Saldana, with first-degree murder.
And the grand jury has returned an indictment charging Fernandez Saldana with first-degree murder. In addition to the first-degree murder charge, the grand jury also has indicted Fernandez Saldana for conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, solicitation to commit a capital felony, as well as child abuse. First-degree murder, this is a capital felony punishable by death or mandatory life in prison.
Jared's ex-wife and her new husband, Mario Fernandez, have denied any involvement in his murder. Gardner-Fernandez has since relocated to Washington State with the twins she shared with Jared.
And she now is under arrest as well. So all 3 of them now accused, and the killer admitting to it, taking a deal. I'm sure he'll be witness number 1 in this case. Let's bring in our guest tonight. Joining us, forensic death investigator, professor of forensics at Jacksonville State University, and host of the wildly popular Body Bags podcast, Joseph Scott Morgan is with us. Also joining us tonight, our friend and podcaster Gray Hughes has an incredible show you got to watch on YouTube. Watched it many, many, many times. Great to see you, Gray. Great to see you, Joseph Scott Morgan, tonight. Let's begin here. You know, Joseph, we've been waiting a long time for her to be arrested because there is the motive in all of this, but putting the pieces together here, it seems like investigators believe that they have done that.
Yeah, they have, and the wellspring for all of this is going to be Tenen. He's the key. to everything as far as, you know, the acts of that night, the dynamics of this event. And just so that folks at home understand, this was not simply a tire that was found in the roadway. This was a tire on a rim. So there's, you know, this kind of poignant moment when you think about it. The police arrived at the scene after this had occurred, and the flashers were still on Jared's vehicle, which gives you an indication of awareness, doesn't it? It gives you an indication that he had spotted something in the road. He thought to put his flashers on, and that was the intent here, I believe. And it was something he could not go around. This is a heavily wooded area, a lot of vegetation, a great area for cover. It's something that my friends in the military would refer to as a choke point, because it's a one-way road. There's no way to go around it unless you hop the curb. So he knew that he would stop, and it's at that point, with a 3-year-old baby in the back seat, mind you, where this young man, Jared, was actually executed. And they've used that term, execution-style killing, even though he's shot multiple times. It's a ghastly event, but like I said, Tenon is the linchpin in all of this.
Let's take a listen to Jared's brother, Adam Bridegan, who spoke with Matt Johnson earlier today.
What's your reaction to the arrest with Shanna? Did that surprise you at all?
It absolutely surprised all of our family that we would get to this point, right? It's one of like your worst fears being realized. And what I mean by that is worst fears knowing what this would mean for Jared's children, knowing what this would mean for Kirsten, and knowing what this would mean for our family.
There he is, Jared Bridegan, shot down, execution style. It was a hit, no doubt. But now his former wife, the mother of 2 of his children, the twins, Shanna, is now arrested. Gray Hughes, I know you've been covering this in depth, looking at this case, and with the arrest of Shanna now, it seems to be the final piece in all of that. How do you see her connection with all this, other than the obvious that she has a motive?
Well, I think she's probably completely behind the whole thing. I think that she hated Jared, and on this particular night, I agree with Joseph Scott Morgan there, where there's a choke point. Right before that, there's actually it's 2 lanes on that very same road, and then it just kind of quickly goes into individual lanes. You can see right there on the video. But I think that they planned it when Jared dropped off their shared 2 children with what's her name? Let's see, it was I think it was Kristen Bridegan's his wife, and then his ex-wife. He drops the 2 children off at that house, and then immediately, I think after that, Mario is alerted that they've left that house, and there's a lookout point that has to be maintained, because if you put the tire out too soon, then that means the vehicle, any other vehicle that shows up on that road would stop, and it would ruin the plan. So you have to wait to right before Jared's vehicle turns onto that road, the final road there, and then you put the tire out. And I guarantee there was some communication, maybe using burner phones, that said, hey, put it out, put the tire out right now. And then the tire was put on the road. Jared's the next car. And then if another car had started to come, I think they would have called it off. I think if there was another car showing up, people, they just would have called it off, but there wasn't. And then I think right after that, Tenon likely got into a car and then drove and picked up Mario, because right after Tenon would have shot, he'd have to get into a car, picks up Mario just right up the street, and they take a right and they drive all the way around, and they're seen on 3 surveillance cameras by the police station in that Ford F-150, or at least the vehicle is, but he isn't. We don't know who's in it at that time.
That's significant, and what a great point, Joseph, that Gray makes here. You're talking about what Shanna's role is in all of this. We've seen cases where, all right, I want somebody dead, and then somebody gets it done. Here, I see exactly what Gray is saying, that there's got to be some level of communication to pull this off.
It's a coordinated event, isn't it? I mean, you have to have an awareness, timing. As Gray pointed out, this is essential with this event, knowing, and for those of us that have been, unfortunately, divorce is part of life, and you have to hand the kids off on the weekend and that sort of thing. And there are time elements. You set these times up in advance, and you drop the kids off, or you pick them up, or whatever the case might be. And you run the same route most of the time. This is a familiar route. His wife even says, "You should have been home by now." And that's key. I think, the devil's in the details here, this idea of laying in wait, which, again, is a very sinister, dark thing. But then you begin to think about how much evidence, has been left behind at the scene. That tire, I think, is going to be a wealth of evidence. If you take a look at that rim, one of the things that caught my eye about it is that it's covered with what appears to be road dust or road dirt. I really wonder if they recovered print out of that. It's dirty. It hasn't been very well taken care of. And also that tire is specific to a particular type of vehicle, Vin. And so you take that, and what types of vehicles are involved? Well, is that something that would fit an F-150? Did they just grab the closest thing available? Or did they go out somewhere and steal another tire with a rim and use that to facilitate this ambush? And that's key here, I think. Not to mention the one downside from a forensic standpoint, my understanding, at least at this point, maybe I'm wrong, is that we don't have a weapon. But I can guarantee you have shell casings, and you have recovered projectiles as well.
And Gray, talking about that escape route, is there any connection to a potential route where the video picks up this vehicle and Shanna's home?
Oh, yes. I mean, it's absolutely clear. The escape route looks like it goes up onto Shedder Avenue. I don't know if you have it on your screen there, but Shedder Avenue, you would take a left. You pass one surveillance camera that's on South, let me zoom in on that. I'm just looking at it on my end. It's on South 12th Street. And it just drives right by that. And then it passes the police station, and there's two cameras on the police station, ironically, that pick up the Ford F-150. And then after that, it goes through an intersection, and that's really important, because if it took a right, it could go onto a freeway, and then if it kept going forward, if you took another right, it would go onto the same freeway. So it's not likely this person intended to go onto that freeway. So after they get to the next intersection at South 15th Street, you just turn a left. And 200 yards from there is Shanna's house. I mean, so to me, it's just really clear that right after that, I mean, I can't say it's absolutely 100%, but it's very good circumstantial evidence that the vehicle was heading back towards Shanna's house and going to drop off, I believe he was dropping off Mario.
And that is so significant because in this case, you've got three defendants. One has already admitted his guilt, will be testifying against the others. But I could see her pointing the finger at Mario, trying to distance herself from Mario. So anything that can potentially connect her to what happened the time and day of the murder will be crucial for prosecutors in this case, because you know the way it goes, Joseph. If there's three people, they're pointing the finger all at each other, and she has already seemingly attempted to create some distance between herself and Mario.
Yeah, they've entered into a confederacy here when you begin to think about this. And I think, not only will CCTV be very important, we're going to hear when this thing finally does go to trial, then for all of our fans here on Court TV, buckle in, because you're going to hear a lot. You're going to hear a lot about digital evidence in this particular case, phone records, those sorts of things. And boy, is it going to play a key, because you're going to have crosstalk between these three parties. And Lord only knows, all the text messages that have gone out and, kind of ramping up this. And they're going to talk a lot about the seeds of this conspiracy as it's being planned, those kernels that were planted at some point in time. What day should we go off on? When's the next time you're going to have the kids? When are you going to deliver them? What time of day do you normally deliver them? What's the best time? Because if you're watching the area and you're looking for traffic patterns and all those sorts of things, that's going to be key. So there's going to be a real deep dive into a lot of the digital evidence, I think, in this case, and it's going to be crucial.
All right, Joseph Scott Morgan, Gray Hughes, appreciate you coming on tonight. Great insight as always. We'll see you again really, really soon. All right, folks, when we come back, we're going to talk more about Shanna Gardner, take a closer look at her, what's going on up here, this transformation she made in her life, plus coming up next hour.
In Santa Fe, New Mexico, Alec Baldwin still waiting to see if he will once again be charged for shooting and killing Helena Hutchins. Meanwhile, potential major problems for prosecutors after the FBI breaks the gun during testing. Did the FBI blow the case against Baldwin?
The FBI mangled this whole thing by damaging the gun in their investigation so that further examinations of the gun, it will not be in the exact condition it was on the set.
Wow.
We need to know what that gun was exactly as it came off the set, and that is no longer possible.
2 militia groups were preparing to kidnap and possibly kill me.
A foiled plot to kidnap the Michigan governor. 3 defendants on trial for their alleged role.
Elaborate plans to endanger the lives of government officials and the broader public.
The infiltration of a militia group.
I never could have imagined anything like this.
The Michigan governor kidnapping plot. Coverage begins this week following jury selection on Court TV.
What was that relationship like in the beginning? How did they meet, him and Shanna?
So they actually met through my wife. My wife was very close with Shanna in their younger years. They had a very good relationship, and they were connected through my wife and myself. So throughout the years, there was definitely changes and things that happened, and behaviors and things like that. And so we haven't spoken in a very, very long time.
There is Jared Bridegan's brother, Adam, talking to Matt Johnson earlier today and talking about Shanna, his former sister-in-law, and how she changed through the years. Remember, when she got married, she grew up in a Mormon home in Utah. Met her husband, he's a devout Mormon as well. They started a family and they broke up, and things happened in the marriage, and things changed. Take a look at what the Daily Mail is reporting about Shanna Gardner. It's unclear how Gardner-Fernandez met her new husband, but those who knew them before their arrests say she became wilder and wilder as their romance progressed. She visited a tattoo parlor in 2015 asking for a genital piercing, a request that shocked staff who said she looked like a normal mother. She went from this goody two-shoes girl to this wild lady. I just remember thinking, well, this is a changed woman, one employee said at the time. So what could be going on here? Let's bring in our guests, still with us, or joining us. Nationally known psychotherapist, host of Talking Live and the Bite-Sized podcast, Dr. Robbie Ludwig, and forensic psychiatrist, body language expert, and columnist of Inside the Criminal Mind in the Front Page Detectives, Dr. Carol Lieberman. Great to have you both here. Dr. Robbie, let me start with you. Marriages break up all the time, but it seems either after the breakup or when she met her new husband, it seems like things changed. Like she kind of moved away from whatever she was to this wilder person. At least those are the allegations here. She's working out, she's got muscles, she's ripped, she's got tattoos, apparently wants to get pierced. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so I wonder if, first of all, we are influenced by those around us. So if there was something about her new husband that encouraged her to be more wild and dysregulated. I wonder too if she had late onset of bipolar disorder, which also can get people to behave in this kind of wild way. So it sounds to me either some kind of mood disorder, the person she was influenced by, or just had this need to rebel in a way that she never had before.
And I understand people change through the years, Dr. Carol Lieberman, but this is a different scenario. We're talking about someone accused of plotting and helping in the murder of her own former husband, the father of two of her children, of the twins. Going from this devout Mormon household that she grew up in Utah, marrying a devout Mormon, and then this wild streak, do you think any of that, of what's going on, could potentially be connected or makes it more likely that she could get involved in a murder plot like this?
Well, she was a woman scorned. And when that marriage was falling apart, then she met this other man. And, perhaps there were drugs involved, or just a lot of, there's a lot that we need to know that happened in the marriage, because their divorce was so contentious, particularly fighting over kids and money. But as that's the hardest thing really when people get divorced, because they see themselves and their children, and they don't want to let go of that. But, she could have very well just been disillusioned. Here she thought she had this wonderful life and with this wonderful man and now these two children. And all of a sudden it dissolves, and he's just giving her 5 years or 6 years even of contentious divorce. So it could be a rebellion against that, or a disappointment really against that.
Now, according to Action News JAX in Florida, after Jared Bridegan was murdered, his widow, Kirsten, asked Jared's ex-wife, Shanna, not to speak publicly about his death. But in June of last year, Shanna spoke to JAX 30 reporter Kristen Rary and denied being involved in this plot.
Did you have anything to do with Jared's murder?
No, I did not have anything to do with his murder.
We also have a statement from Shanna's family. They are saying, words cannot accurately express the depth of our sadness. Family is our top priority. We love our daughter and are focused on supporting her and our entire family as we help our grandchildren navigate this difficult and very confusing time. For their sake and all involved, we caution against further speculation and request privacy as the legal process runs its course. That's from Shelley and Sterling Gardner, the parents of Shanna and the grandparents of those twins. Dr. Robbie, the twins, I don't know what this does to kids. I've seen kids in all different ages through the years here at Court TV stuck in the middle of these cases where one parent's accused of murdering the other. I don't think there's any easy way out for them.
It's extraordinarily damaging, and not only that, they lose extended family in some cases. So this is a loss that in some ways never gets resolved. It's an open wound that they learn to live with, and hopefully they can get the right support. But it's very damaging in terms of what it means in terms of them getting involved and feeling safe moving forward in choosing a partner. So of course it's just devastating for the kids and for the family, and it's just awful.
Yeah, the grandparents are in a tough spot, Dr. Carol Lieberman. But let's get back to Shanna. I mean, she grew up, her parents have money. That's an extremely successful company. Do you think there's any level of entitlement that sort of, because I'm sure her parents did what most parents would do. If you have money, you share it with your kids, you take care of them, whatever they want, you kind of get. You get for them if you can, make their lives better. And better than your life and easier than your life. Do you think any of that could play a role when things get tough and you're in a custody battle and you're not getting your way?
Well, it's been reported that she used the fact that her parents were very wealthy to lure Jared in the first place. So there's some, that has to be interesting. Why did she have to lure him with their money? Like, wasn't she enough? Or did she not feel that she was enough? But, I watched the rest of that interview that you showed a part of, and she deserves an Oscar for it because she looked like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. She really did seem believable that she was innocent. And then, of course, that interview was done in 2022 between the time that he was killed and the time that she was arrested. And so, she had people fooled. At least, it's going to be interesting to see how much evidence there really is against her. Like, Tenon did tell about the plot and all of that, and he's going to testify against her husband, her current husband. But how much is there? Is it possible that she's going to be able to convince a jury with another Oscar-worthy performance that really she didn't do anything?
Dr. Robbie, that's a great point. What are your thoughts about the relationship now between Shanna and Mario? Because it seems like Shanna and her family are distancing themselves from Mario. What I take from that is, and what normally happens in murder cases with multiple defendants, is that someone's going to point the finger at someone else. And I think there's a little trouble in paradise there.
Perhaps she just used Mario all along. And what's so interesting about these murder-for-hire cases, especially when it's instigated by a woman, in fact, they're called instigators, is that these women can fall into denial. And that's why these murder-for-hire cases rarely work, because most people don't know professional killers. And so, there's usually clues left along the way. So it's very possible that Shanna, what's her name, whatever her name is, that she convinced herself that, it wasn't her who actually committed the crime. She didn't actually murder her ex. It was somebody else that did it. She might have had angry feelings. She might have liked the idea of him being dead, but she wasn't involved in actually killing him per se. So there's a lot of denial that can be involved in these kinds of murder plans.
And Dr. Carol Lieberman, I expect her to throw him under the bus, because the connection is between the killer and Mario, the much more direct connection as landlord and tenant. They knew each other. Maybe that's where a lot of the communication is. I can clearly foresee that inside the courtroom.
Yes. She must have been filled with so much jealousy and rage. Rage, from the years of fighting with the divorce battles and so on. And jealousy, he got married. They were divorced in 2015. He got married in 2017. He got married before she did. And then he had 2 babies with his new wife. So she sees this man going off and having another family with another woman. And, both of those things would have built up her rage and built up her desire to kill him. It doesn't mean, though, it doesn't mean that she really did, or it's going to be, still leaves room for there to be proof needed in between.
Oh, absolutely. You got to prove the case. You absolutely have to prove the case. Everyone's presumed innocent. Even the man who's admitted to it until the conviction is final is presumed innocent. Dr. Robbie Ludwig, Dr. Carol Lieberman, thank you so much. Appreciate your time tonight. When we come back, let's talk about that divorce between Jared and Shanna. We'll bring in our experts who have been there in the middle of battles like this, but maybe not with the result that this one had. But people, when it comes to fighting over kids, it's non-stop. That's next.
2 militia groups were preparing to kidnap and possibly kill me.
Foiled plot to kidnap the Michigan governor. 3 defendants on trial for their alleged role.
Elaborate plans to endanger the lives of government officials and the broader public.
The infiltration of a militia group.
I never could have imagined anything like this.
The Michigan governor kidnapping plot. Coverage begins this week following jury selection on Court TV.
What I can say is that Jared was broken, right? He really wanted to stay together for the kids. I think that was his top priority, was raising the children. And the divorce really took an emotional toll on him. And we were so happy as a family to see Kirsten come into Jared's life.
That's Jared Bridegan's brother Adam speaking with Matt Johnson earlier today, talking about his brother who was shot and killed. It was an obvious hit. The hit man who was hired has admitted his guilt inside of a courtroom and is expected to be the key witness against two other people, which would be Jared's ex-wife Shanna and her new husband Mario. So let's take a look at the relationship between Shanna and Jared, right? In 2010, they get married. 2015, they divorce, and then there's a bunch of custody disputes that follow, and both parents share custody to a certain extent of the twins. 2017, Jared marries his second wife, Kirsten, as you heard Adam talk about. And then in 2018, Shanna meets Mario at CrossFit Gym, where Mario worked as a maintenance man. They get married the same year. Then, 4 years later, 2022, Jared is shot and killed, and Shanna gets full custody of the twins. Let's bring in our family law experts who have been in battles, maybe not this extreme, but battles. Family law attorney Jacqueline Newman is with us, and family law attorney and law professor Randy Kessler. Great to see you both here. Jacqueline, from your perspective, how often is there irrational behavior in a custody battle, whether it's, you know, at the time of the divorce or 4 years later?
Is 100% too much to say? You know, there's always some sort of element of irrational behavior. I mean, custody, as you can imagine, is just incredibly challenging for people to fight about. I mean, this is their children. This is their everything. So people can act in a very irrational way. Going to the extent of murder is definitely way more irrational than what I've typically dealt with. But I think it's safe to say that most people are somewhat irrational when dealing in a custody fight.
And Randy, that's why I never got into your line of work. No, it's much safer over in the criminal courts, much safer. So let me ask you, Randy, how do the dynamics change in a case where a couple gets divorced, they have kids, and then one of the exes gets remarried and starts another family?
So I think you hit on it earlier, right? That she's going to throw him under the bus. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of the new spouse feels threatened by the former spouse. The former spouse is always going to have a connection to the new spouse, you know, to the wife, because they had children together. You marry somebody and they had children with somebody else. They had something that you'll never have with them. They had their firstborn, their secondborn, and there's some competition, there's some threat, there's, you know, it depends on the individual. So that's not a good recipe if people cannot be mature enough to say, I know what I'm getting into. This is a woman who's got children and I'm good with it. If he wasn't good with it and he felt threatened, certainly she may say, he didn't like my ex and he did it on his own. He knew I didn't like him, but I would never have wanted my ex killed. So that may be the defense, that may be where it ends up, because you hit the nail on the head, Manny. There's a lot of that animosity, and that often causes more litigation. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to one up the other side and show that she married right this time, that the first one was the mistake and I'm the right one.
Are there signs, Jacqueline, when you can tell in a case like the other side is getting, you know, a little, I don't say the word dangerous, but again, getting back to that irrationality, can you tell in the middle of a litigation as an attorney whether your client or the one on the other side, you know, something's a little off?
You can often tell to some degree, and that's why it is so important to keep safety first. And that's one of the first things I say to my clients all the time, especially when they're announcing they want a divorce. We talk a lot about safety plans because you don't know how somebody's going to react. And then when you're in the midst of the divorce, and as we said, people can act incredibly irrationally, you want to make sure that people are in safe environments. You know, keeping people sometimes living in the same house, that can be very destructive, and, you know, and very triggering, obviously, for everyone. So it is really important to have, you know, when they're represented by an attorney, and if you're in a position where you think that they're making threats or they're really kind of acting so out of the norm that you're scared for your client, you need to communicate with the attorney and make sure that your client stays safe.
Now, one of the factors here, Randy, that's a little different than most is the divorce is in 2018. The murder isn't until 2022. I mean, there's a lot that happens in between. These kids are growing, the twins are growing up. Obviously, they both have gotten remarried. Are you surprised in the allegations here of one ex plotting the murder of another ex 7 years later.
I am not surprised. I would think 25 to 30% of our business is post-divorce interaction, enforcement of custody orders, collection of past due child support, modification of the terms of parenting time. People, I think half the time people say this was a good divorce, it worked out, we're both happy, and half the time it's not. And my numbers may be off, but there's certainly a large portion of people that get divorced that it doesn't solve things for them, it doesn't solve their feelings, and they still want to get back at the other. And the other half of the time, or 60 or 70% of the time, people move along, but certainly this is not rare, these kind of feelings.
And Jacqueline, that's why around the holidays you really like to relax, right? Because everyone's in such a good mood on both sides, right?
Oh yeah, I always say in Christmas, nobody likes, a summons in their stocking. Yes, it is a very, very difficult time. Obviously, holidays are very difficult. The beginning of school right now is a challenging time because people are adjusting. I know something, I read, and even in this case, people were fighting, this couple was fighting about where their children were going to go to school a month before school was beginning. So, it was obviously incredibly acrimonious. I think it did continue even after the fact. And you don't know what everyone's influences were, and what they were fighting about, but they obviously continued to fight and the anger remained.
So what's the secret, Randy, after all these years? What's the secret to get adults to be rational?
A lot of good therapy, a lot of good family support, and sometimes space. Just, put yourself in the other side's shoes. Do something nice. Think about 5 years from now, how would you like to think back about how you acted and how you handled this adversity? If you can get out of your instant skin and say, myself 5 years from now would look back at this and say, you handled this the right way. That's what you got to do. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody gets therapy. Not everybody has good family support, but we recommend it all the time.
All right, Jacqueline Newman, Randy Kessler, awesome insight. Thanks so much. We'll see you again.